When Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano faced off on April 30th, 2022, they were the first women to headline a boxing event at the historic Madison Square Garden. But the pair weren't content with simply breaking a boundary. Instead, Taylor and Serrano tried to set a new bar for championship action.
Couldn't finish up top, off balance. She might be swinging harder than she needs to be.
She just looks all kinds of banged up. But you can never count out Katie Taylor.
And through 10 non-stop rounds for undisputed lightweight gold, they may have succeeded. However, the eventual 2022 Fight of the Year didn't materialize overnight. The women were linked to multiple canceled bookings before they finally shared the ring, amplifying the anticipation as each secured more elite-level wins and found themselves ranked as the top 2 pound-for-pound women in the world.
Serrano throws.
Oh, man.
Serrano is biting down. She's throwing everything for his. Oh,
and the referee steps in and stops it.
The WBC even created a one-off belt for the event, the Celtic and Boricua belt. While both athletes were multi-weight world champions, they carved significantly different paths to their showdown at the world's most famous arena. Born in Carolina, Puerto Rico, and raised in Brooklyn, the 33-year-old Amanda "The Real Deal" Serrano had a short amateur career before starting her professional campaign in 2009. She won her first world title in 2011 and went on to capture gold in 7 separate weight classes, the most ever in women's boxing. A southpaw, Serrano was as experienced and accomplished as anyone in the sport.
And Serrano likes to at least 20 pounds there. Right away, forward, constant pressure. And down, is that a knockdown? It is!
With her style revolving around a scary combination of forward-moving attrition and fight-ending impact.
Serrano. And a tribute to the warrior that is Danilo Ramos, machines another left hand on the pipe, and that one hurt! She goes down!
With 30 KOs across 42 wins, the unified featherweight torchbearer stood as one of the most successful heavy hitters in women's boxing. After a string of dominating performances, Serrano was ready to do whatever it took to keep the lightweight crown in New York. But Katie Taylor, the 2-weight world champion and undisputed lightweight queen, was insistent that the belts were making a return flight to Ireland. The Bray, County Wicklow native, stood as a generational Irish athlete, regardless of gender or sport. Taylor had a near-legendary 187-fight amateur career where she repeatedly conquered podiums on the international stage. She also won 5 straight world championships and captured lightweight gold at the 2012 London Olympics. After a final world championship showing in 2016, the public was eager to see her join the professional ranks. And Katie Taylor did not disappoint. Thanks to a combination of positional mastery and volumetric flurries, Taylor grew her record to 20-0, becoming a multi-weight world champion in the process. Though she wasn't the hardest hitter, her real weapon was technical consistency and active scoring across 10 rounds. In addition, she had blinding accurate hands, rapid-fire combinations, and excellent target selection. Heading into the Serrano fight, Taylor was at the peak of her powers and ready to add another world champion to the victims list.
To the 4 corners of this ring right here at Madison Square Garden, the fight starts now!
With the intensity at a fever pitch, the women marched forward to cap off the Ring Magazine's Event of the Year. From the opening moment of the bout, a clear, classic Orthodox versus Southpaw dynamic appeared: the battle for the outside foot position. This isn't required for opposite stance attacks to work, as our video on Southpaw angles points out, but it is textbook and pretty reliable. By placing your lead foot outside of your opposite stance opponents, you can achieve clearer avenues for offense, most notably the cross through the middle, and better leverage with the lead hand to parry or jab over top. Additionally, it skews those same angles for the opponent, making you slightly safer in brief moments you hold that outside position. And you can tell how important this was by the way the women almost stepped on each other's feet during certain exchanges. But Taylor played it super smart by disengaging nearly every time Serrano would get a bite on the position. So, if Serrano tried to step outside, Taylor would L-step to gain space and quickly circle to correct the positional imbalance, or simply bounce away. But she didn't need massive movements to make this possible. KT excelled in this exchange, where she landed some absolute stunners while Serrano seemed lost. She would also wait for Serrano's lead foot to touch the ground before bounding forward to the outside space.
A very versatile puncher. Good hand speed from Katie Taylor.
Plus, Taylor was super sharp with her check hook, using it both as an intercepting counter when Serrano would step outside, while Taylor was essentially in control. The real deal wouldn't be denied so easily. Serrano was in constant forward motion, like she was standing on a conveyor belt, often jabbing to mask steps into range. No matter how many times she got tagged, or Taylor tried to reset the positioning, the Puerto Rican champion stayed in the fight and tried several tricks to even the score. Serrano repeatedly shot out counters when Taylor would step in with long-range punches. She also tried mixing up the timing on her step to get Taylor to circle into a left hand. And as the round went on, she got closer and closer with her straight, even landing as Taylor connected with a hook. So, if she were willing to accept a damage tax, Serrano proved that corralling Taylor was possible. She did so once in the first minute of the round. By the time the 2-minute frame ended, no one was quite sure who had taken it. While Serrano had found her footing by the end of the round, Taylor certainly had the brighter moments, finding success with her movement and precise weapons. The fight wasn't in its final form just yet, and both athletes had plenty of time to definitively claim the #1 pound-for-pound spot. The second round began, much like the first. Serrano stomped forward with jabs, while Taylor maintained distance and looked for counters. And the round would have ended up as a rinse and repeat of the first. But Serrano wasn't out of tricks yet. She dove forward, somewhat stumbling over her feet to capture a clinch. After all, if she couldn't track Taylor down in open space, grabbing a hold of her would make things a whole lot easier. But while the real deal managed to rough Taylor up a bit, she seemed to take the worst of it. Serrano stopped exclusively looking for the outside foot position and instead opted to mix things up with steps inside with her lead foot. This is unorthodox, but it makes sense for the position that the featherweight champ was in. Taylor was only willing to stick around when she achieved the outside angle. Otherwise, she would bounce. So Serrano would give it to her, either by stepping inside or throwing as soon as KT took the outside position. Needless to say, this was super risky. And the first time she tried to step inside, Taylor made her pay in the most textbook way possible. a massive right straight that buckled Serrano's knees. But it proved the hypothesis, giving Serrano the time to answer back with a stout left hook. While she lost the exchange, it at least kept Taylor in one spot long enough to connect. For the rest of the round, Serrano hunted Taylor around the ring, swinging whenever she stepped into range. Like in this clip, where she sells a commitment to an outside step before inching inward and forcefully stepping inside. Taylor's brief hesitation allowed Serrano to step in for her best left hand of the fight, knocking the typically sure-footed champion into a stumbling, desperate response. For the second half of the round, the pair played tug-of-war with the momentum of the fight. Even when Serrano would appear to win an exchange, Taylor would answer back with style points in the very next one. And in the final 20 seconds of the round, Serrano appeared to be wearing on the Irish champion. She landed a good body shot and then followed it up, sailing through a double jab to connect with a left straight. While Taylor rode with the impact, it was Serrano's first successful rear hand from the outside foot position. The raucous applause drowned out the bell, leading to a post-round scuffle. The arena was loving this contest, and lucky for them, they'd only have to wait 60 seconds for more. Serrano started the third like a woman on a mission. She sensed that her Irish adversary was beginning to slow, and her newfound tactics were evening the score. If she could press Taylor to the ropes and disrupt her lateral movement, then Serrano had a better chance of catching something big. So, she turned the hostility up to 11, marching into range and responding to every punch Taylor threw. Plus, she showcased another wrinkle, the double cross. While it doesn't connect in this clip, it meets expectations. Move Taylor to the ropes. But, unfortunately for her, the Irish champ wasn't wearing down. She was about to level up, thanks to Serrano's relatively straightforward aggression. Serrano's battle-eager approach largely backfired and left a ton of defensive gaps. And for a champion like Taylor, even a slight error could be critical. Like this. So much effort from Serrano, who was almost running while punching. This especially paid off when Serrano began to dial things in later in the round, offering Taylor a life craft when the seas got choppy. And things did occasionally get worrisome for Taylor, who still had to be wary of Serrano's lead foot tactics. After all, the Puerto Rican was still mixing up her foot placement, which forced Taylor into volleys against the ropes. Here, Serrano stepped inside to land a hook, and rocked out of range from Taylor's punches. The pair traded hooks again, and then Serrano swarmed, landing a solid body shot. Or, in this other exchange, Serrano tried to put leather to liver, slamming a punch into the champion's core. Still, Taylor was winning most of the round with technical in-and-out boxing. Like in this clip, Taylor lands a beautiful right, while Serrano's glove whistles in the wind. And she was beginning to hold her ground on the outside foot battle, leading to this moment where Serrano trips while trying to capture the outside angle. And even though both athletes stumble, Taylor was immediately back in her stance. Even though the round had gone mainly Taylor's way, the closing seconds reminded everyone how even things actually were. The pair were unwilling to back down, every connection prompting forward motion and unbridled aggression.
The referee can't hear the bell. The referee cannot even hear the bell, and he's 10 feet away.
The crowd had officially gotten its money's worth. and they still had up to 7 rounds to go. Round 4 saw another amazing development. Taylor stopped moving. Whether to recover or simply prove a point, she wanted to try to win in Serrano's wheelhouse, phone booth fighting. And of course, Serrano was happy to oblige. While they warmed up with jabs on the outside, it wasn't long before they were brawling against the ropes, each looking to hit a home run as missed punches barely brushed past them. While Taylor cooled things off with a bullying clinch, it wasn't long before they were back to lobbing bombs.
Really close. I thought Amanda moving forward, landing heavier shots.
With neither woman willing to truly stay defensive, they were left with only one option: throw until the bell rings, either from a KO or a well-needed break. Regrettably for Taylor, this was precisely the type of fight Serrano was looking for the entire night, and she wasn't required to cut off the ring to get it. The unified featherweight champion found numerous solid connections, even while under fire. And though many of the exchanges seemed even on a rewatch, Taylor's backward motion started to read more like a survival mechanism than a tactical choice. The round ended with each woman eager for a 60-second rest. Plus, with the 5th round they were about to have, they were gonna need it. If the 4th was action-packed, then the 5th was like an asteroid hit center ring. The women collided from the opening bell, with Serrano stepping deep with a jab to hit a quick uppercut to the midsection. The pressure was working, and Taylor seemed just as insistent as in round 4 on trying to get the best of tit-for-tat trades rather than leaning on her movement. Serrano pushed Taylor back to the ropes with a right hand, and then all hell broke loose. The champions began unloading in the corner, each whipping shot a possible fight ender. But Serrano started to pull ahead, repeatedly planting damage while Taylor progressively hit air. Serrano crushed the champion with massive hooks, which momentarily tangled her in the ropes. Discombobulated and wearing fresh damage, the champion dove into a desperate clinch. But just like Taylor's lateral movement, her strength advantage in close also went missing. Serrano battered her way out of the clinch by smashing uppercuts to the body, eventually breaking loose to slam targets at every altitude. The champion looking like the ring was a rocking boat as she tried to find her bearing. Then Taylor answered back with punches of her own, catching Serrano with a nice right hand left hook before hopping out of range. But Serrano just walked forward like a Terminator, and Taylor was beginning to get beat down as she stumbled through the exchanges. She wasn't just getting caught at Serrano's range. She was standing head to head with one of the hardest punchers that women's boxing has ever seen.
Last round of the fight.
Katie's legs are straight. She's not even bending them. Blood from the nose of Katie Taylor from Amanda Serrano here. She's looking bloody.
Katie Taylor's hurt. Katie Taylor's hurt.
She's holding on for dear life.
Look at Amanda Serrano.
Amanda's hammering away. Katie's trying to hold on.
Serrano could smell the blood from a mile away and went after Taylor with everything she had. Forget the kitchen sink. She'd throw the whole house if she had to.
You know, we wondered if Amanda Serrano's power would go up to 135, and the way it has below 130, it absolutely has. Look at the Puerto Rican sensation go!
The crowd went berserk as the Puerto Rican boxer was just a few connections away from becoming undisputed. But miraculously, the Emerald Isle's proud champion held on. Taylor was clearly still hurt heading into the 6th, and Serrano was still hunting for victory. Serrano walked Taylor down and began to pick up where the last round ended. She cornered Taylor within 15 seconds and smashed her with a 2-punch combination. But Taylor fought back, grabbing a clinch and apparently finding her strength again as she muscled Serrano to the ropes. And though it didn't last long, the break gave Taylor her exit to the open space. The champion's movement and speedy combinations started to show back up, even if they were still buried under scars from the last round. Taylor even started leading the exchanges, rapidly shifting her weight to make the most of every connection. However, the way she threw herself out of position was a clear sign that she wasn't out of the woods yet. But then again, getting lost in the woods isn't the biggest deal if you're willing to chop your way out. And though Taylor's legs appeared to be more stable, that didn't mean she'd go back to sticking and moving. The lightweight queen would not yield, and fought to earn her respect back. Punch by punch, skirmish after skirmish. The bell sounded, and after all the momentum Serrano had going into the 6th, the punch totals revealed that she had only outscored Taylor by a single strike. To start the 7th, it felt like the last 3 rounds had been a dream, or a nightmare depending on whose corner you were in. Taylor was fully recovered and appeared to have found her second wind. Plus, her movement had returned, and she began catching Serrano with smooth combinations before sliding out of range. Though Serrano saw glimpses of success, she once again had to open her veteran toolkit to claw back control. The featherweight frontrunner tried a few crafty tactics like the double cross, fleeting stance switches, and lead foot positioning. But Taylor punished her at nearly every turn. Even worse, Serrano's guard was beginning to fall, a sure sign that the previous frames took something out of her too. Whether it was a pep talk from her corner or a realization that the lightweight title was slipping away, Serrano entered the 8th with a renewed energy. While she still looked a bit tired, she moved forward with spirit and kept her guard high, looking to drag Taylor back into wild exchanges. After all, she had already hurt the champion, and this is how she did it: dogged determination. But Taylor wouldn't bite, and put together one of her best rounds. She lobbed right hands into Serrano's temple, repeatedly slipped away unscathed, and even got back to clinching. She was just one step ahead, but only time would tell if she could keep it up. Heading into the penultimate round, the women knew that the next 2 rounds were critical for any chance at victory. The women started quick, immediately shooting out offense as they came into range. While Taylor definitely relied on her movement, she was much more willing to stay put if it meant landing a few more punches. The champion walked Serrano into right hands and even darted forward to counterpunch retractions. Then, Serrano found success with another footwork adjustment. She widened her feet to stand more square, often abandoning the technical bladed foundation that Taylor was running circles around. Plus, the square stance is better for lateral movement. So, Serrano would use it to head off Taylor's lateral escapes and stick her in place with savage outbursts. And even if she didn't find the mark, she would be back on Taylor right away. The pound-for-pound leaders jockeyed for position, with each sign of dominance causing another push from the other side. The pair thrilled the packed arena with reckless displays of top-tier violence.
You know, Katie isn't just winning these rounds, Chris. She's winning them definitively.
Yeah, last couple of rounds, we've seen a surge from Katie Taylor. Has made this fight really close.
bell sounded, and Serrano was feeling good as she walked back to her corner, encouraging the crowd to get even louder. Not that it was physically possible. And this was it, the final round. With 18 minutes of war behind them, the contest had no doubt taken its toll on the fighters, both soaked in trauma and exhaustion. Serrano nearly ran into the frame like the bell was a starting gun, firing machine gun punches as she barreled towards Taylor. While she didn't land every punch, it was a high-volume strategy. As long as Serrano was throwing, Taylor would have to respond or get lost in the storm. But the Irish icon wouldn't let herself get outdone, slowing her red-hot opponent down with well-timed clinches. In this exchange, she even caught Taylor on the break with a crisp pair of hooks. If KT could stay tough and conscious, she could find a way to ride with the onslaught. With 30 seconds left to go, the women kept the world on the edge of its seat while they seemingly scratched and clawed their way through one of the most action-packed thrill rides championship boxing has ever seen.
Both fighters are spent.
A fight worthy of the occasion. They fought for history, and they're making history. Katie's knees buckle. Oh my word! The female fight of the year. Who won? I do not know.
And when the fight was over, the crowd jumped to its feet in appreciation as the two women stood bloody, battered, and happy to hear the final bell. With 20 minutes of fury behind them, Taylor and Serrano were absolutely still exhausted as they waited to hear their fate. In theory, the close rounds, and there were many, hinged on what the three judges appreciated more: consistent volume scoring or singular impressive impacts. But in the whirlwind of uncertainty, one thing was sure. One half of this Irish Puerto Rican crowd was going to call robbery. The other 50% would celebrate like lottery winners. In the end, Katie Taylor defended her undisputed title, defeating Amanda Serrano by a paper-thin split decision. Serrano and her team were sporting, but insistent that she should have gotten the nod. Lucky for them, she'd get another crack almost exactly 2 years later. And as riveting as this fight was, most experts place the second one in a league of its own. For the modern martial artist, this has been Coby Mckinley, wishing you happy training.